Have you ever wanted to see the second largest barrier reef in the world? Sample homemade local rum or chocolate? Check out a Cameo jewelry factory. And still have time to shop before you get back on the cruise. I'm going to tell you my thoughts on the glass bottom boat tour we took of the reef, and how safe is Roatan, Honduras, and why am I seeing all these alien murals while I'm visiting? And then lastly, why I didn't go see a sloth and the reason why. My name is Shane with MapOut, and I'm giving you insights of 25 plus years of international travel. And thank you so much for watching. Roatan surprised me. It was one of my favorite ports on this cruise. And due to the fact that I've never been there before, and that there were travel advisories that were 3 and level 4, I decided I wanted to go ahead and do an excursion. Now, it doesn't matter what cruise line, it could be MSC, Carnival, Norwegian, Royal Caribbean, all of which includes Roatan and some of their itineraries. Now, first things first, let's get the safety out of the way. One thing is, Roatan is an island 40 miles off the coast of Honduras. Now, majority of mainland Honduras is a level 3 travel advisory. Some areas can be up to a level 4. But Roatan generally stays around the level 2 mark, which means it's safe, but with caution. And just to give you an idea, Massa, Bahamas, for instance, is a level 2 port. That's a popular port. When comparing it to that, it is generally safe to go to Roatan without any problem. And of course, do what you do when you normally travel and always keep your guard up. Keep your guard up and look around at your surroundings. Don't just trust anybody. Travel smartly. Now, one of the things I didn't know about Roatan is it is home to the world's second largest barrier reef. So the excursion we picked actually had a 30-minute glass bottom boat tour that we can go on to see the reef, as well as we wanted to check out some other things. So it also included the rum factory, chocolate factory, and the cameo factory. Took it on a tour bus. There was also supposed to be a lunch included in this tour. And not only are you able to go to these great locations, but you also get to see some of the local island, as well as you get to go up onto one of their mountains to see the view of the ocean from up there. And believe me, it's gorgeous. Now, Roatan has 2 ports. One is Mahogany Bay, and the other is in the port of Roatan at Coxen Hole. And this was with the port that we were at. I'd have to say it's a smaller port, but it does have some shopping, a few things to do. So before our excursion, we were actually able to do a little shopping, get some souvenirs, and it didn't take too much time, and we were able to get to our excursion in time. Now, before you book this exact excursion, and it completely threw us off guard, and it's probably the reason I wouldn't book this excursion again. And then it also may change your mind on whether or not you would want to do this excursion as well. So we ended up deciding to book the Island Highlights tour that had 4 different things. This excursion was about $55 and was on sale at the time, so prices vary, of course, but it seemed to be very inexpensive. And when I read the excursion, it mentioned the 4 places: the Cameo Factory, the Rum Factory, the Chocolate Factory, as well as the Glass Bottom Boat Tour, and that lunch was included. Now, the first stop on the excursion was the Glass Bottom Boat Tour. It was 30 minutes. They took us out into the ocean. We got to see a good portion of the coral reefs. Now, one thing I do want to point out, though, is that it was a partly cloudy day with the chance of showers in the forecast. So every once in a while, when we were on the glass bottom boat, you would see the sun peek out and you would see the colors get a little more vibrant, but it didn't happen for very long. It was cloudy skies, so a lot of the colors the sun brings into the water and the coral reef, we didn't get to see. Now, don't get me wrong, it was so amazing to see, especially when you got to the canyon drop off. But if I went back to Roatan, Honduras, I would want to do it again if the weather was more favorable. Now, with this glass bottom boat tour, the pier was a wooden pier, and they did have seats that you can sit on that were part of the wooden railing. But I wouldn't recommend doing that, especially if you're a fluffier gentleman like myself, as I didn't feel safe sitting on those benches. I felt like at any moment we could break it and tip over. And now on this trip, I did travel with the Art Sisters, and they do have some mobility issues. They were able to do everything. They just had to, be a little more careful when you had to get on the ship. Guide will help you get on, as well as the crew. So to me, if you just had a little bit of mobility issues, this excursion wouldn't have any issues. But I would have to say, I don't feel like you could get to the boat if you were in like a mobility scooter or a wheelchair. Now, the other thing too was while the ship was in motion, granted we were only on there for 30 minutes, so it wasn't really that big of a deal, but you could definitely smell the exhaust from the boat. If you're a little claustrophobic, you also probably don't want to do this too. As we did have one person on the excursion who had to go back up to the top part of the boat because she was getting a little claustrophobic down in the viewing area. And then lastly, I didn't ever feel unsafe, but I did notice afterwards when I was looking through all the footage, there was a slight leak in the window next to mine. Now, with that being said, a lot of times people are like, well, you get what you pay for. Now, the cruise line's never going to purposely put you in harm's way. In fact, if they find out that it's a little more risky than normal, they typically will not do that excursion anymore. Another highlight about the excursion is they also had one of their employees on the bus tour with us the entire time, just making sure everything went smoothly. I really like that, especially when you're traveling somewhere when you're not quite sure what to expect. Now, the glass bottom boat tour, don't get me wrong, I would do it again. I'm glad we did it. I just wanted to point out some of the things that some people wouldn't be willing to do on that particular glass bottom boat. Now, on the way to the glass bottom boat, I did see a few murals with aliens on it. And then at the glass bottom boat, I found this mural, which I took a picture with, and then started wondering, does Roatan has a history of alien sightings? Well, the answer to that is yes. A lot of islands have sightings, especially because they have a huge area of ocean around them that's dark, and sometimes they see lights that aren't able to be explained per se. So I looked into it. There's never been anything like famous sightings there, but there have definitely been reports and sightings of unfamiliar aircraft or lights in the Roatan area. Now, I'm not really a person who wants to ever go snorkeling, so the glass bottom boat was actually an amazing alternative. I've been snorkeling and not scuba diving. To me, I don't like it when there's something on my face when I have to breathe. I actually have to do a CPAP machine when I sleep. I'm not a fan. I probably won't do it again. That is not for me. We'll let that be for those of you who love snorkeling and scuba diving. Now, the next stop on the excursion was the Cameo Factory. Here you'll find a local man. He actually tells you a little bit about the jewelry and the art. He also shows you where he handcrafts them. To me, this was really interesting. I enjoyed seeing how they let us hold a few and see the art and what to expect. And of course, on most excursions, they didn't try to sell it to you. Now, we were here probably 15 minutes of him talking, and then we had about 15 minutes to either use the restroom or just to kind of look around. Now, after that, I'd say we've been on this excursion already for about an hour, 15 minutes-ish. We had a scheduled stop at a gas station. We didn't know this at the time, but the excursion said that lunch wasn't provided. So we didn't get anything at the gas station to eat. But we found out later we didn't get any lunch. So now I start to wonder, was that supposed to be where we got our food? Although, when I read through the listing, it did say lunch was provided. Now, I did go back and try to look through and see if I couldn't find where it said that. I wasn't able to, so we're just gonna have to go by my word. But the ARP sisters who were with me, they also said when they read it, it sounded like lunch was included. I'm not complaining about that. We did only pay around $50 some, but if I would have known, we definitely would have bought stuff at that gas station. And the next place we went to was the rum factory. The rum factory was really cool, mainly because that was what was up high on the mountain. So when you got up to the rum factory, not only did you get to try this delicious rum cake and different flavors of rum, but you got to see this amazing view of the ocean from high up in the mountain. Other than the boat stop, I didn't see a bathroom there, but I also didn't need to use it. I'm not sure about that stop having a restroom. Now, all these other stops, though, they did at least have a restroom, so if you did need to use it, you did have somewhere to go. Now, the rum factory was really cool. I didn't get anything. I'm not much of a rum drinker. I did like the rum cake, and I really enjoyed seeing the view up there. That part alone was worth going to the rum factory. And then lastly, we went down to the chocolate factory. The chocolate factory was actually in the tourist area of Roatan, basically where you would stay at if, say, you were on a cruise ship. Now, of course, the chocolate factory was delicious. We did actually get some chocolate while we were there because we did like it so much. And the cool thing about it was on the beach, so you were able to see the ocean while you were there. One note is the rain held off all the way until we got to the chocolate factory. We got into the chocolate factory, it started raining, which is actually kind of perfect because got basically everything else out of the way. We got the boat tour done before the rain started, and our tour guide was so amazing. We didn't get wet. Ooh, and a side note, our cruise line actually provided us with ponchos as we were exiting the ship. When it came to the chocolate factory, though, our tour guide said, well, we're going to go ahead and park the bus as close to the door as possible, so it limits the amount of time that we would spend in the rain. Well, not only did he do this, but he also had an umbrella there, so we literally just got on the bus without even having to worry about getting wet. So I'm a little bit of a nerd. When it came to the rain shower, I actually was really happy that it did, because I was able to experience everything that we wanted to do. But then at the end, bonus, you get a rainy day, kind of give you an idea of what it's like in the tropics when there is a rainstorm. One of the things Roatan is known for is their sloths. And back in the day, they used to let you actually hold the sloths, have a little, one-on-one time with the sloth. But because of overhandling of the sloth and it not being so great for the sloth, they no longer allow you to hold the sloth. But they still definitely have have places where you can go and view the sloths up close and personal, as well as a lot of times they include monkeys too as well. We chose not to do those because one, I did want to hold the sloth, so I didn't really want to just go to the zoo and view it. But at the same time, I totally understand. Our first time in Cozumel, we actually rode dolphins, and I have to tell you, yes, they work for food, but I felt a little bad for the dolphins. I'm not sure that I'd ever do that kind of an excursion again, but at the same time, I feel the same way about the sloths. So I definitely do still want to see the sloths. It's just this trip, I decided not to do it. Now, next trip, probably one of the first things I'm going to think about before I decide on an excursion. Now, as of the port that we're at, I didn't see much to walk to when it came to the beach other than just going to the local beach there. But I have to say, it didn't seem appealing to me. I'm not really a beach person in the first place, but I do like to at least, I like the view of the beach. I don't want to walk on the sand. I don't want to get in the water. I'd rather do a pool. But I definitely enjoy seeing the view of the ocean, maybe going on the boardwalk for a walk, just not in the sand. So I do like beaches, but what I can see in Roatan is the beaches didn't look like they were that clean. There was a lot of trash in a lot of places that we went to. So that is one thing about Roatan. I just don't think that I would ever want to spend a day on the beach there because of that reason. Now, on a side note, we were at a different port. Mahogany Bay actually has a beach area that's supposed to be really good just around the corner from that port. So if you're at Mahogany Bay's port, that's a different story. You may be able to just walk on over to a beach that's probably been upkept because it's near the cruise port. Now, with that being said, I'm just going by what I've seen while I was on my excursion. Please leave a comment below if you've been to any of the beaches at Port Roatan, whether it be Mahogany Bay or Coxen Hole. So let us know what that you thought of the beaches so that we can all learn together whether or not we would like to spend some time at the beach in Roatan, Honduras. Now, I will say, what I haven't been to is when I did my research on Roatan, West Bay Beach seemed to be the beach to go to. So that would be where I would go if I were to decide to go to the beach while there. And not only do they have a lot of snorkeling, they have the sanctuary for monkeys and sloths, as well as the beach, but they also have like ATVing, zip lining, they have restaurants and bars. There's plenty to do at Roatan, and that's why if I go to Roatan again, it will not be one that I stay on the ship. Because I definitely loved it. The people were friendly. I never really felt unsafe when it came to the crime rate. I did, though, have to say that there was one time I was nervous when my mom and aunt we were walking basically on the road to get to the boat tour, and we were so close to traffic. Wasn't the safest feeling that I had, but at the end of the day, we had no problem. So my take with Roatan is, yes, of course there's pros and cons to every place you go to, but at the most part, Roatan has hit my list of places that I definitely would go again. Just be sure you do your research, use common sense. Whether you be in Rome, Chicago, Sydney, the Caribbean, doesn't matter. Always be vigilant and be aware of your surroundings regardless of where you go. Check out our Facebook page as well as our website and our cruise recommended products. And remember, travel is life.